Hats for hunger. Life's an everyday adventure. That's my philosophy. My grandmother is one of the most awesome people I know. She is always introducing me to new ideas, new people, and new things to do. She may look old, but my grandmother has more energy than a whole family of monkeys. Last week, my grandmother asked me to get some creative friends together for a party, but she wouldn't tell me why. Well, today was the party. All morning, my friends were calling with questions. Little Janie asked, "What should I wear?" Sunny wanted to know what we were going to eat. Lily's mother wanted to know if she could bring anything. And Marco wanted to know when the party would end. My mother and I laughed as we didn't know the answers to any of the questions. All we knew was that we were to put enough chairs for everyone around an empty table. So that is exactly what we did. Except we did it in the backyard. My friends started to arrive, and we played hide-and-seek while we waited for my grandmother. When I heard her voice in the house, my toes surprised me and started tingling like crazy in my moccasins. I knew something great was about to happen. My grandmother walked into the yard holding a huge bag of yarn. Then we noticed she was with a boy wearing a cool, woolly hat. We all looked at them in wonder. My grandmother smiled and said, "Hello, dears. Thank you for joining us today. This is Andrew, and he has a wonderful story to tell you." My mother sat down, and we sat next to her in a circle on the grass. Andrew was not much older than we were, but he seemed to talk like a grown-up. None of us moved as he began to tell his story. "A couple of years ago, my parents got a catalog in the mail. It was about how you can help hungry people around the world by buying them animals. I thought it was a great idea, and I wanted to find a way to help too." Andrew continued to tell the story as he grabbed a ball of yarn and some knitting needles. He knit as he spoke. "The best part about giving animals to people in need is that it can provide not only food, like eggs from chickens and milk from cows, but also money from selling what they don't eat. It's not just one gift, it's a new way of life for them." I thought his story was so great that I jumped up and clapped. Then everyone jumped up and clapped. Andrew's face turned as red as a ripe tomato. Then he quickly changed the subject and said, "Let's knit some hats." We had no idea we would be learning to knit hats today. Not only that, but Andrew said that we were going to be selling the hats we made, and the money would go toward buying animals for people around the world so they would be less hungry. My grandmother sure knows how to bring a surprise to a party. Luckily, Andrew wasn't the only one who knew how to knit. My grandmother and mother were very good too, so we each sat near one of them and began to learn how to knit. Even though Andrew was teaching us how to knit simple hats, his own hat was beginning to look wild and crazy. He used lots of different colors, and his hands seemed to be moving at lightning speed. His hat was finished in no time. Once we all got the hang of knitting, we started singing songs and laughing. Then, as our hats were beginning to look like hats, we started to name them. Lily called her yellow hat Banana Biscuit. Marco called his gray one Thunder Road. Sunny was working on a red hat, but she couldn't decide between naming it Cheery Cherry or Wrinkled Rose. We were having a good time knitting and giggling, but I was beginning to get hungry. Then I remembered we were knitting hats for people who don't have enough to eat, so I didn't say anything. The next thing I knew, Marco exclaimed, "I'm hungry." I quickly gave Marco a look, then whispered that we shouldn't talk about food right now. My grandmother overheard me and said, "Oh, sweet dears, it's okay if you're hungry. We have to stay healthy. If we do, then we can do good things for other people as Andrew does." We all let out a yahoo as my mother ran in to get us the snacks my grandmother had made. She came back out with sandwiches, cookies, lemonade, and Lily's parents. When they came to pick Lily up and heard about what we were doing, they wanted to knit hats too. Soon my father came home and found us all outside. It was starting to get dark, so he turned on some outside lights. Then he too grabbed some yarn and started knitting. I never knew my father could knit. Amazing! Next, Marco's mom joined in, and so did Sunny's father and little Janie's babysitter. The party wasn't ending, it was getting bigger. By the time we all had finished our hats and everyone had gone home, we had made 14 hats for hunger. Joining Andrew and making hats for hungry people around the world was awesome. We learned something new, did something for someone else, and had an excellent time. Molly Moccasins, Everyday Adventurer.